Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Governor, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Brad. I think that's where I lost my voice last night.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, you do boxing too? I mean,
I'll tell you what, maybe that'll be another career.
That's really good. Any piece of you that wants to be delivering this speech tonight?
No, I'm excited for Tim Walz. I'm excited for Kamala Harris. She made the exact right pick, and I'm looking forward to supporting the ticket.
Listen, you just heard that report about the jobs and the revision. You know, and Republicans jump on this and say this is an example of an economy that is not as good as is being portrayed. There's a lot of enthusiasm in this room. But what about the economy from Pennsylvania's standpoint and where you see it heading into this election?
Look, I think all the indicators are up, right? In the sense that there's more jobs being created under Joe Biden than there was under Donald Trump. I get, though, that there are still people who are struggling. There are still people who need help. It's one of the reasons why in Pennsylvania I've cut taxes multiple times for seniors, for families, for small businesses. And it's one of the reasons why Kamala Harris was in Beaver County, a rural community outside Pittsburgh the other day, talking about the economy, talking about reducing costs on family. So while I think we've made real progress under the Biden-Harris administration, and no one can take that away and no one can redefine that as much as Donald Trump might try, the reality is we still got a lot of work to do. That's why we have elections, and that's why we move forward as a nation to continue to make progress.
Well, I want to talk about that delicate dance that I'm hearing here. Some people are hearing. Here are the Obamas last night, some of the things they said, and they're well-received speeches. Take a listen.
America's ready for a new chapter. America's ready for a better story. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. It's the contagious power of hope.
We heard a lot of hope and change, but I mean, we have 3.5 years of a Biden-Harris administration. So that message of change and a new thing, is that just overlooking the Biden-Harris 3.5 years?
I don't think so. Let's examine the record, okay? We're producing more energy in this nation than ever before. We are beating China for the first time in a whole lot of years. More people went to work in America this morning than at any time in our nation's history. We've made progress, Brett. We've got a ways to go. We've got more work to do. And as Kamala Harris continues her campaign, she'll continue to lay out that vision for not just hope, but meaningful change for people.
But is it a delicate dance to say, this is hope, this is something change, even though you have a Democratic president who kind of was pushed out on over the past weeks?
I would respectfully disagree with you.
Many people in your party even said
that. Yeah, no, and I mean this respectfully, Brett, of course. Look, I think what Joe Biden did was really patriotic. He understood that, you know, in every chapter of our American story, Americans have written those chapters and then passed the marker to the next generation to continue that work. He did that here in passing the torch to Kamala Harris, passing the marker, if you will, to Kamala Harris to write that next chapter. So I'd respectfully disagree. Okay. I think what he did was really patriotic.
Let me ask you about energy. You mentioned that. Yeah. Pennsylvania, that's a big story.
Yeah.
How big a deal is fracking in Pennsylvania?
Listen, I'm an all-of-the-above energy governor. We recognize that we've been giants in the energy sector in Pennsylvania. We are a net energy exporter. That puts people to work. It puts food on the table. It helps union tradespeople go to work every morning and make a wonderful wage. We have to continue that progress. Kamala Harris heard that. And her role in saying natural gas is going to play a role in the energy economy, in our overall economy, I think was really welcome information, welcome news for the good people of Pennsylvania.
But just to be clear, she hasn't said that. Her campaign put out a statement. I mean, this is her in 2019.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah.
She's going to ban fracking in Pennsylvania, but now she says she isn't, but she will 100%.
So Politico says Trump's false claims about fracking bans are an obvious attempt to distract from his own plans to enrich oil and gas executives, expense of the middle class. The Harris campaign said in a statement she would not ban fracking. A campaign spokesman said in a follow-up email to Politico. So there is criticism, you know, obviously on the Republican side, but there are some Democrats who say there needs to be a little bit more meat on the bone here, policy-wise, to refute some of the things she campaigned on in 2019. Do you agree with that?
Here's what I will say. I'm not going to get into the semantics whether Kamala Harris said it, the campaign said. They made clear what their platform is. 5 years later, Kamala Harris said, I've heard from the good people of Pennsylvania. I've heard from others, and I want to make sure natural gas is part of our energy economy. Going forward, and I think she's been our nominee for about 30 days or so, Brett. I'm sure she's going to continue to flesh out her views on energy, her views on the economy. But what she said about natural gas, I think is something that's going to put a whole lot of people to work in Pennsylvania, protect a whole lot of union trade jobs, and something for me, and all the above energy governor, was really welcome news.
Last thing, do you think that the Israel-Hamas situation is a divider to this party? Senator Fetterman's not here. He's been very outspoken in your state about this. Do you think it is dividing the party?
Yeah. I'm not going to duck your question, but if I may, I'd like to kind of respectfully reframe it.
And I'll respectfully allow you to do whatever you want.
You can come back on that if you want. I think it's really hard to look at a situation where you had 1,200 dead folks in Israel, over 200 hostages, including American hostages, taken on October 7th from a music festival from a kibbutz. And then thousands of people in Gaza who have been killed, communities destroyed. There is real carnage. There is real tragedy. And it's really hard to sort of think about how that carnage, how that tragedy impacts politics. People have strong feelings on both sides. You know, I have strong feelings as well. But I think what the Democratic Party does is it understands the suffering on all sides of this and wants to see an end to the war and a return of these hostages and maybe, just maybe, a pathway towards some peace. So I'm not thinking about this through a political prism. I understand why you're asking the question. What I hear from most Democrats is really common sense stuff. Let's bring those hostages home. Let's end the violence that we're seeing, and let's try and see if we can move forward with some peace.
Those hostage families are here.
I've spent time with them
tonight, and they went to the RNC as well.
Yeah.
And we've had them on the air a bunch.
They're incredibly brave people.
They really are.
And we cannot forget these hostages. Israeli, American, multinationals, they must be brought home, Brett. And I know President Biden is working on that. I know Vice President Harris is working on that. And I think keeping the political rhetoric out of that is probably the best way to bring them home.
You talk to the people outside, too. Governor Shapiro, we really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.